I guess one of y'all got to say something.
Good afternoon. I just unmute myself. We always doing too many things. That's all. That is it.
That's all it's about.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. How you doing, Tanya?
I am excellent. Feeling good.
Yeah, you're looking excellent too.
How are you, Mad Flo?
Wonderful. How about you, Anthony?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Flo. How you, Tanya? Are you home or are you still out of town?
I'm out of town as usual.
All right.
Well, I'll be joining you next week, Tanya. I'll be out of town too. I'll be in Massachusetts again. So
what?
Hopefully the weather's better.
We're the traveling ladies.
Yes. Hopefully the weather's a lot nicer there.
Yeah. Everyone out there, hey, we're here again this Friday. We'll be here at 1 o'clock every day without fail, every Friday without fail. Looking forward to having a conversation with you guys on different topics when it comes to financial literacy. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your show. Again, this is your show, Financial Sins. It's the podcast on the All Things Relevant media platform. We're excited about you joining in the conversation every Friday at 1 p.m. here on this show. So be sure that you put something in the comments because we have a fantastic show for you today. And if you have any questions in reference to what our topics are, please put those questions in the comments. Let me tell you a little bit about me. This is Mad Flo. All right. They call me Mad Flo. I'm not crazy, guys. Y'all know that. I'm just making a difference for life and others. I've been crazy, Mad Flo, since 2013, since I started this business called World Financial Group. And the vision of World Financial Group is called World System Builder. And I've been doing this in 2013. I enjoy what I do. It's as if if I had a job and I enjoyed it so much, didn't have to pay me, this would be it right here.
I hear you. I hear you.
It's that much. You don't have to pay me because I'll come here and do it no matter what. But and I always want to tell you, I used to be a police officer, but now I'm retired. So in this industry, this is an industry that is a $1 trillion industry in the financial industry. But guess what? It's a large industry. Most people don't understand finances, so that's what we're here for. I have 3 beautiful daughters, 3 gorgeous grandkids that I'm going to be visiting again. Come on the 25th, I'll be traveling again up there to see them. So guys, let me introduce you to our other host, which is Tanya Scott Pilcher. And also we have Anthony Murray. Tanya, take it over.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Financial Sins. First I got to say, hey, Mom, because I can see that she's on telling me that she's in South Carolina. So then that means, hey, Auntie and Uncle and everyone in South Carolina. Love you guys. Hope you're celebrating birthdays. My Aunt Patty and my Aunt Jackie just had birthdays. And so just want to say hello. And I can see that they're watching. So I am with Get Skills, which is my personal business. And what I do is I make sure that people have the opportunity that want to get their insurance license, have an opportunity to get their license right here in Savannah. We are now expanding the business going out into Atlanta, where we'll have a class July 10th. And I'm so excited about it because the class is filling up. So if you want to change your life and get into this $1 trillion industry, there is an opportunity. And so with Get Skills, we try to make sure that you have everything that you know or need to know in order to take the test. I have been in insurance for the past 12, 13 years. I can't keep up right now, loving it and enjoying it so very much. And what I love about the job is that I not only get to make some money doing it, but I get to share information with people. And that is what I really like doing. So making sure people understand what they are into or how they need to set up their life in order to be financially free, even when we become older. So get that retirement stuff, and insurance is the way to do that. So I've turned having income into a ministry by, giving and making sure people know and understand. So that is a little bit about me. Anthony, how about you? How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm just trying to maneuver things around in this tablet of mine so I could monitor. But anyway, I'm doing wonderful. My name is Anthony Murray. I'm glad to be with you today. And this, again, as Flo said, or Mad Flo, This is your show. This is for you. We're just glad that you're here, because if you weren't here, we wouldn't be here. How are you, Miss Tony Sanders? So good to have everyone that's with us today. One of these days I'm learning how to use this thing over here, this tablet of mine. I'm a little more familiar with my phone more than anything else. But I like what Tanya's doing. She has her own thing going on, and she has her own school. So I definitely encourage, if you want to know more about the insurance industry and you like the hands-on instruction, Tanya's one of the ways to go, and definitely for Savannah. I have a educational background in insurance. My college major was insurance, and so that's what I majored in school. And it was weird because I had to take all kind of classes, law and business and all this other stuff. I guess they were trying to find something to make it worth my while, because really insurance, it's a 40-hour course, but it was 2 years for me, so it's very interesting. You would love this industry. I've worked with such companies as Mutual of Omaha, Edward Jones, and it was really good, So now I'm with a company called World System Builder, World Financial Group. World Financial Group is the parent company to World System Builder, and the parent to World Financial Group is Trans America. The parent to Trans America is Aegon, and it's phenomenal industry, phenomenal. So you guys, you're going to be really blessed today. I hope you wrote down some questions. I hope you're hungry and want to know about uh, tax and not tax, but probate court and how trust and wills fit in and all the nuances of probate. We're not, of course, going to be able to cover everything. I don't even think our guest is going to be able to cover everything, but we have somebody from probate court, and we have attorney Glenn Wagstaff, who's going to be with us from Legacy Shield. And so, man, it's just going to be a power-packed hour.
Yes. So we're going back to one of those topics we already had, right? So
that's right.
We're talking about wills and making sure that your property and everything is in order.
Yeah.
So I put on my Facebook, you leave it for your children, but it ended up being in probate. You all need to join the show, right? And so we had this topic probably a few weeks ago, and one of our, once we finished talking with attorneys, then we started having some questions in reference to, well, what is it about probate? So we're fortunate enough to have a guest today that's going to talk with us a little bit and maybe be able to shine some light and protect us. So the community, this is a conversation for you so that we can properly prepare, because as African Americans, most times the only thing that we have is our home as something that we're going to, or property that we're going to leave for our family. I know that on both sides of my family, we have property. From the Mungeon side, we have many, many acres of land that's been divided out amongst the heirs in the family. And then I know that I have some of that. But, as time goes on, what happens? Could be taxes that becomes an issue if people don't pay it. Or, could be like, we're not interested. Most of us say we're not interested in staying there, so we don't really care. But it really does mean something that my great grandparents made sure it was available to us. And so
that's right.
We have a lot to talk about today.
Flo, you're awfully quiet. What everything all right?
Everything's fine. I can't talk when she's talking, can I?
Oh, okay.
She was talking. We can't break in the middle of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here. I'm just excited about today just as well as you guys, because last week, when we had the commissioner from Garden City, we had her and we talked about what she went through, the hassle, the headache, when she inherited property, but probate was HELL, trying to get everything cleared up. So, the fact of the matter is we all need to know the knowledge. We have to know what's the next step to do whenever we get like a property or something like that. We need to know the next step, how to handle ourselves in probate court. So I'm excited about today, and I'm excited about having, what's his nickname again we gave him?
You're thinking about the other guy.
Yeah, this is we got Wagstaff today. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a nickname there, but we're excited about today. Very excited about today. So I'm just quiet. I'm thinking.
Yeah, this is going to be really good. You know what? A lot of people. I spoke with somebody, I don't know, several months ago. It was last year, maybe before this COVID thing, and they had a very good question, and the question was, what if they have power of attorney? Do they still need a will or a trust? All right. So these are things you need to know. All right. And they're going to really get into this. So, you guys, I hope you have a pen and a paper, something. The good thing by being on Facebook or YouTube, especially, you can go back and watch it.
Right.
You're not going to catch everything one time, because we can't wait and go super slow as the program is going. We have to really dig into this. So it's not going to be a pause, too many pauses here. We have to go along so that people could get questions and we can ask questions, because we got a bunch of questions already.
Well, why don't we go ahead and bring our attorney in?
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring in our guests who we have with us. And Flo, you're going to check on the other?
Yep, I sent a text as we speak. Well, email.
Hey,
she
Glenn.
got the link and everything. Just waiting for her to get in.
Hi. So now I'm worried.
Glenn, how you doing, sir?
Name you're giving me.
What'd you say?
Now I'm worried that what nicknames Flo's going to be giving me.
We had a guy on from one of the companies, one of the WFG companies, and he was talking to us about annuities, and I think primarily annuities. And we started calling him Mighty, whatever his first name is.
Yeah.
And no, actually, one of the guests called him that.
Yeah.
One of the guests called him that. And so every time we see him now, when we have him, that's what we call him.
We are located in room 509 of the Chapter.
Glenn, where we were last time, we were talking about wills and wills and trusts.
Wills and trusts, right?
And so nothing's changed, since I think we've been together. I think in my neighborhood, we lost another member of our family in the neighborhood. And I am watching at this time a house that sits across the street. Lots of people are coming to look at it. And so that tells me that something wasn't in place, and this is happening faster and more often. And in this market, I guess buyers, sellers are really benefiting at this particular time. So there is still property being lost because of poor preparation. And one of the questions Anthony just asked was, if we have a power of attorney, do you still need a will or a trust?
Over this last year, we've heard a lot of stories like that. And one of the issues that families have to deal with when a loved one passes away is who can make decisions and how can you do it? And that's where probate comes in. If you don't have the right documents in place, then the court has to give that authority to somebody. So a power of attorney gives you the authority to make decisions on behalf of somebody else while they're alive. Once they pass away, power of attorney's done. It doesn't do anything anymore. And so, sometimes people think that they're protected by having a power of attorney, and they are until their loved one passes. But once their loved one passes away, then that power of attorney loses all of its authority. And you have to have either letters of administration from a court, or you have to have a trust or a will or something that authorizes you to act on their behalf otherwise.
Correct.
Wow.
And what happens is over this last year with COVID and everything else, and you shared that you had someone from the community that passed away, and I'm sorry to hear that, but we had somebody reach out to us. It was probably about a month and a half ago, and she said, everybody around me's dying. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, I have 7 of my family members that are in the hospital right now, and 2 of them already passed away. And so, there's this pressure that some of us have felt over the last, year and a half of crisis, right? Of what happens in these emergency situations, and the families scrambling to try to figure out what to do and how to do it. And sometimes for the first time ever, we're really realizing what it means when we lose a loved one, right? What's it like having to schedule the services and having to go through the burial process and having to pay for all of it. And once we experience that for the first time, then we really kind of understand that you don't ever want to have to go through it again, right? And so that's where an ounce of prevention can avoid a pound of cure later.
Right. I'm sorry. Jackie had just put up something in reference to a power of attorney is only good during life, after death is no longer good. That is absolutely right. That's exactly what he said. No longer good.
And what's the different types of power of attorney that people can actually they need to look into getting? Because I know this is not just one for finances. There's one for health as well.
There is, yeah. So you want to make sure on a very basic level that you have a power of attorney for financial affairs, and then you have a power of attorney to make medical decisions. And in some states, they call it a medical proxy or a healthcare directive or a healthcare power of attorney, or, it can go by a lot of different names, but basically it authorizes somebody to make medical decisions for you. And the thing to remember is that both of those, unless they specify otherwise, they're going to end at the time of death. And so any decisions, anything that needs to be handled, if that's all you have, you basically have until life runs out to be able to use it.
I knew when my mother-in-law passed, well, before she passed, and we was able to get power of attorney of her finances for her. And what happened was she was a woman that always paid her bills, and on her deathbed, all she could think about was what she has not paid. And so we got and I'm serious, that she was that type woman. But we was able to get power of attorney, and once we got the power of attorney, we had access to all of her finances. So what we did, me and my husband went in, and we just basically contacted every creditor that she had, and we wiped her slate clean because we had access to her income as well. And so we was able to clear out, I think it was something maybe about $35,000 to $40,000 worth of debt.
This was before she passed away?
Yeah, we had power of attorney. That's the only way we could do it, was with the power of attorney. She was still living. But within 2 months, we was able to clear out all of her debt with her income that she was, had coming in, cleared everything out. And when I went to her, on her deathbed, and to say, hey, Mom's, everything that you own is cleared out. And that woman just had, she said, are you for real? She said, I said, yep, we paid all your debt. Everything's taken care of. And she just had a big smile on her face because she knew what she was leaving behind, for other people to take care of. And probate was probably going to be involved or whatever, but it was just a peace of mind for her to make sure that everything's taken care of. We did not have power of attorney. There's no way that we could have taken care of all that, because before we got power of attorney, and I attempted to go to a couple of the and actually pay her bill, and they wouldn't even allow me to pay the bill. I said, what?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, but this is, I said, the woman's on a dying, we're trying to get this cleared up, but they will not even allow us to go in there and pay a bill on her behalf. But once we got the power of attorney in place and everything's in place, we made sure all the creditors got a copy of it, the banks got a copy of it. And within a month and a half, we was able to do everything, take care of everything. And she passed away about 2 weeks later.
Wow.
She passed away with a smile on her face because all her bill was paid.
Well, Glenn, is a power of attorney something necessary to go through an attorney to do?
So there's a lot of ways that you can get a power of attorney document. And every state has a statutory form power of attorney that should be available on your the county website for the court system. They usually probably have a sample that you can use, or you can look it up online. But even a basic document could be sufficient. The problem is that the financial power of attorney is the most abused financial instrument that exists.
I could imagine.
Yeah, it's very easy for it to be overreaching. And if it's used by the wrong person, then, they have access to everything, right? Because they basically go fit into your shoes and do whatever you could do, right? And so you need to be careful that it's, tailored specifically for the purpose that it's supposed to be used. And we have had situations as well where people do a power of attorney and then it's not a durable power of attorney. And what that means is that your durable power of attorney continues after incapacity. And so it wasn't set up properly, and then they become incapacitated, and that's why they needed it. And they find out that it stops as soon as they become incapacitated. Well, that doesn't do anybody any good. And so it does have to be structured properly, and it's important to, possibly have it reviewed by a legal professional. But there are a lot of options to be able to do a simple power of attorney on your own.
So my question for you is the power of attorney, trust, and will, they're separated. They have their individual purposes. Power of attorney is to help prior to death, and the will and trust after the person passes. But a will can also be effective for medical decisions, correct?
So the way it works basically is there is a difference between what happens after death and what happens while you're alive. A will is a testamentary instrument. That means that it doesn't do anything until after you pass away, right? And so then it will start affecting things after you pass away. There are other documents like a trust that's a living document, and it starts protecting things right away, right? And so it just depends on the situation, but really the purpose for the powers of attorney, if you have a proper trust plan, the purpose for the powers of attorney are to empower making medical decisions, and for anything else, the day-to-day stuff that just can't be covered by the trust, right? The trust doesn't own it. So somebody's got to pay the power bill, and somebody's got to, check with just the day-to-day expenses of the household, or, be able to access accounts that maybe weren't put into the trust. And so really the powers of attorney are to avoid the risk of conservatorship or guardianship when somebody's still alive and they can no longer make decisions for themselves. And by the way, 74% of us statistically are going to need long-term care at some point in our life. So most of us will get to the point where we maybe can't make decisions for ourselves or can't manage things for ourselves. And that's when those documents kick in.
Correct.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, I'm thinking. So we have family, heirs, I guess I'm going to say property. And we have, oh, wow. Jackie is probably getting ready to say something out of hers. Let's say a family member paid taxes on the property, stopped paying taxes, and purchased the property through auction. They decided to sell. They couldn't sell it, even that they thought they owned it. It is property between two dead family members. There is living children from the dead members. Talk a little on that. Did you all understand that one? Whoa. Did anybody get that? Understand that?
Woo!
These situations you can't make up. It really happened. And the thing about it is that, whenever there's loose ends, and Flo was talking about, her family member there that she was helping with paying off debts before they died so she could die in peace, right? And she could have that peace of mind. And the reality is that a lot of times there are loose ends that don't get wrapped up, right? So this is an example of that. There's a property that was owned by two family members that have passed away, and you got to resolve who's going to get that property and who's going to have title to it and who has the rights to be able to sell it, and so on and so forth. In everyday life, we think that there's just an easy method for us to be able to manage our assets. Well, once you're not there anymore, then it becomes very complicated because you have to have court approval to do anything for a dead person. So that means that, that's where the probate process comes in, right? And if you don't have a document like a trust that owns the property, that takes it out of being a probatable asset, either by having a beneficiary designation or having it inside of a trust type vehicle, then it's going to end up subject to what the court decides. And the court's going to determine, basically it's going to determine a couple things. It's going to determine who's in charge of the process. So somebody's got to get appointed to be the personal representative, to be the executor for the estate. And that person then gets to call the shots. They get to, say, okay, we're going to sell this property and who we're going to sell it to and how much, and they're in charge of the process. But then the court is also going to determine or verify, and if you have a will, they'll follow what your will says, but they're going to determine who gets the benefit of the property, who actually gets to receive the assets. Mm-hmm. So if you have a property that's going to be sold, maybe it's sold and then the proceeds are divided among family members or among the kids or whoever it was left to. Well, that's the next step of the process. And so the court has to oversee all of that. And sometimes even when you have the right authority, the steps that have to take place in the middle also have to be followed, right? So just because now you're the executor doesn't mean that you can sell the property until what? Until you transfer title to the estate so that now you can sign on behalf of the estate. Mm-hmm. And then, when you sell it and transfer, then it can process properly.
Now, is that with power of attorney or is that with the will or either or?
So when somebody passes away, the power of attorney is done.
No longer
done. All right. So you're talking about when there's a will in force.
Yeah.
Yeah. A will or a trust. All right. And, a lot of people, and we keep saying will, but actually the strongest document to have would be a trust. Right? Would be a trust. Now, I'd encourage folks all the time, and I encourage you today to really look into, although you may have a will, really look into getting a trust. Why? You want to bypass probate if you can. All right? You can speak with an attorney. If you don't have an attorney, we have an attorney right there. Oh, wow. Glenn Wagstaff, he's right there. He's an attorney. Where'd he come from? Listen, and he has offices all over the United States. Did I say all over? I meant all over. All right. And they're trying to get something situated here. So listen, folks, you're not short of having someone to turn to in the event of needing an attorney. There's plenty of them. They're all around. You don't have to use the attorney we recommend. Go through the phone book. There's a whole bunch of attorneys who's out of work that would love, that would, did I say that? Did I say that? That would love something to do. All right. Hey, look, let's get back to this real quick. Jackie said something. Oh, nope, not that one. All right, Sherelle Grant. Good afternoon, everyone. It's too complicated. All I want is one document that names my only child as sole beneficiary, guardian, power of attorney, executor. I'm not worried. Then you need a trust or a will. Period. Is
that possible?
All right. Mm-hmm. A will is effective. That's good. It costs a little less than a trust. But Glenn, please, Attorney Wagstaff, why don't you address that for us?
Sometimes I have clients, because when we do a full trust plan, it's 150 pages, right? And people get intimidated and they say, well, what do I need all this paper for? I got a simple situation. All I own is a house. What do I need all this paper for? And the reason is, there's actually 3 reasons. The first reason is you want all that paper so that the family doesn't have to go to court and let the court make those decisions. They can just look through the papers and find the answers, right? So that's why it kind of takes a lot of explanations inside of the documents. The second thing is that sometimes we feel like these processes are complicated and there's too much going on. But the reality is that if you work with a competent legal professional and they're helping you put together the documents, you're going to do it once in your life. And if you take care of it properly, you never have to worry about it again. Maybe there's minor adjustments here and there, but you don't have to worry about it again. It doesn't take a long time. It takes maybe half an hour to, go through all the decisions that you need to make and gather the information. And then it takes maybe another half an hour to meet with a notary and notarize everything. And there's a little bit of time in the middle. But at the end of the day, we probably spend more time shopping for our car than we do thinking about, planning for our future and taking care of the family if something happens to us. And just imagine the stress that you're going to relieve everybody of when you have a proper plan, as opposed to when you don't have a proper plan. Over the last 2 years, that's one of the things that have come up just the most frequently is whether it's hurricanes or fires or flooding or pandemic,
right?
whatever it is, there's going to be something that goes wrong, right?
Right.
And those things happen, then just having peace of mind of having a proper plan is really what makes the difference. And whether that plan is a 1-page document or whether it's 100 pages, it's going to sit on the shelf and you're only going to use it when you need it. You want to make sure it's going to work.
And then we also want to think about this, we say peace of mind, so that when you do your will, you do your trust, you have everything in place, you're at peace when you pass away. And when you get all those documents in place, you give your surviving people, you give your surviving loved ones a peace of mind.
Yeah.
Everything's taken care of. So to answer a lot of those probate questions that we have, probate court, we have another guest. We're going to bring her on, but I want to give a quick introduction of this young lady here. Her name is Wendy Williamson, and she'll be coming on. And if you have any questions, please prepare your questions for probate for Ms. Wendy Williamson. Now, this is Wendy. Wendy Williamson is currently the chief clerk and associate judge of the Probate Court of Chatham County, Georgia. She received her undergraduate and law degrees from the University of Georgia. She began her legal career in Savannah, Georgia as an associate and litigator with Oliver, Maynor & Gray. In the first year of her practice, she joined the founding board of directors for the Mediation Center, through which she discovered a calling to be a mediator. Wendy conducted over 500 mediations, both civil and domestic, and served as the trainer and executive director of the Mediation Center for 10 years. Ms. Williamson has been active in the Savannah community, where she served on the founding boards of the First Charter School in Georgia, Oglethorpe Charter School, and Hancock Day School. She has served on the Georgia Child Support Commission and as chair of the Child Support Calculator Committee. She has been active in the Savannah Bar Association and served as president in 2012, 2013. In 2020, she received the John Miller Award from the Savannah Bar Association for outstanding leadership to the community. In 2015, she received the Robbie Robinson Award for the advancement of the legal, political, social, and civil rights of the citizens of the Savannah community. Most importantly, Wendy is the mother of 4 adult children who she raised with her husband, Reed Williamson. Recently, Wendy became a grandmother to Annie in 2020 and is looking forward to more grandchildren in the near future. So this woman is more than qualified to answer your questions, I'm pretty sure. So please bring on Miss Wendy Williamson. There she is in her office.
Hey, Miss Williamson, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, because I'm pretty sure that questions are out there. People have plenty of questions about probate. But I want to put the first question out there, if you may. We're talking about wills and trust. What is the average time span for a will to go through probate?
It depends on how well the will is done, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, the cooperation among the family. So a will can go through probate if within a couple of weeks, if it has a good will that doesn't need any additional documentation, and every heir at law signs an acknowledgement properly. And we can move very quickly through that. If you have family members that are upset and won't sign, the court has to serve them, and that can get very tricky, and that can take time. If somebody objects, that takes time. So it depends on the family in many ways. The preparation before death and the family after death.
And you've been in probate with Chatham County how long now?
4 years.
4 years. 4 years. Can you recollect the longest time it took a will to actually go through probate? What the longest was? It a year, 2 years, 3 years, or some still in going through it right now?
It can go 2 years. I mean, it's been such a humbling experience. I've always worked with families, and families are endlessly complicated and endearing. So we have cases in which 2 or 3 wills are brought forward. Right.
Wow.
And so it becomes very complicated unraveling which of the wills actually represents the wishes of the decedent. So it can get complicated.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
You made a statement about 2 or 3 wills being brought forth. Someone marries, they go through a divorce, they need to redo that will. They need to make either an addendum or an adjustment or a replacement or whatever. If the old will is held on to after the new will is completed, they only need to submit the new will. But what happens if they submit both of them? Or give us some scenarios where there's been 2 or 3 wills that's been submitted.
Well, I want to start with the first thing you said. In Georgia, actually, if you get divorced, law steps in and says that that the ex-spouse will be treated as if they are deceased. So it doesn't make the whole will invalid. It just, wherever the divorced spouse is, they're treated as if they predeceased the testator. So that's good news, because what you don't want to do is get into an intestate where your will is deemed invalid, and now you're left to the rules of intestacy. So that's number one. Number two, the problems usually come from accusations of duress or incapacity. So a parent does a will in 2010, and a signature appears to be strong and all of the components are there. The testator does another will 2 weeks before passing away, and the signature is hard to discern. And suddenly one of many heirs at law are getting everything, which is a major shift from the earlier will. And, all variations on that theme.
So
it's complicated.
So Wendy, because we want to educate our listeners, what is the best thing to tell them now, right now, today, so that this doesn't happen? We have one lady that says, I got one son, okay? And I just want everything to go to him. So what do I need to do? Real simple. What is it that we need to put in place?
Number one, I'd say get a will, and go to an attorney to get a will. Don't go to your kitchen table and sit down and write out a notebook paper. Go to an attorney and have them draft a will for you. And there are trust opportunities, but from my perspective at the probate court, get a good will. And I will say, I'm not going to encourage people to go to online to companies where you can buy canned wills, because I want them to be sure it's those canned wills that are in national companies comply with Georgia law. So I really encourage a local attorney, at least a Georgia attorney, be hired so that you're sure you're in compliance with Georgia law.
Now, another question I'm curious about, because this happened with my family. We couldn't find the original will, but we had a copy of the will. So can a copy of a will, of original will, be submitted to probate court?
Yes, it needs to be accompanied by an affidavit in which the executor or the petitioner states what efforts were made to find the will, and some evidence that shows that the will actually reflects what the testator wanted. Because there's a presumption that if there is no original will to be found, that it was revoked. And you have to overcome that presumption with some language in your affidavit that says, I spoke to my mom a week before her death, and she said, my will's in the top drawer, and make sure you get it probated. Well, there's our evidence that overcomes the presumption that she revoked the will by tearing it up and destroying it. And then, it's very important to have two witnesses and hopefully a notary, and there's a self-proving paragraph that can make your life really easy, make that probate process easy. So that's important. And if you have a copy of a will, you can actually get some interrogatories. It's a standard form signed by the two witnesses that also give weight to the fact that they witnessed that original will, but that's an accurate copy of the original.
Okay.
Well, Wendy, there's a lot of assumptions that if anything else at probate is going to be hell, so everybody wants to avoid their property going into probate. So if you have a parent that passes away and there's still a mortgage on the home and there is a will, and does it have to still go to probate?
There are ways to avoid probate through the deed. If there is, perhaps it passes by death to a co-owner of the property. But if it's passing from one heir, from a decedent to somebody not in the deed or on the mortgage, then it's going to involve probate, I believe. And I'm going to defer to Glenn if he would like to weigh in on that. Because I want to make sure, Glenn, I hope I'm right. I know I'm right here in this court. And there are some terrible myths out there. And one of my dreams for this court is that we do education for people. First of all, they come to court and they get a letters of administration or letters testamentary, and they think that document it is like a magic wand over all the property, and it actually transfers title. And sure enough, 5 years later, the house burns down, and it turns out it's still in the name of the decedent. Nobody has authority over the house. Or worse, you've got multiple people living in the house, and nobody has authority over the house. So when you get the letters, that gives you the authority to go do the job of transferring the property, all of it, cars, vehicles, bank accounts, insurance, out of the name of the decedent as efficiently as you can into the proper living people. And I would hope that coming to probate court is not hell. I think we get blamed sometimes for family complexity. So we can't overcome what's required when we have a family member who we can't find, who isn't cooperating, who's objecting. But I will say that probate courts are notoriously underfunded and understaffed. Even though we're the court that almost everybody will touch on in their life. No other court can make that claim.
Wow.
You're either going to get married, you're going to have somebody die. Anymore, you're going to want a weapons carry. You may have, unfortunately, an adult in your life that becomes incapacitated, and you can come to this court to get a guardianship and a conservatorship set up.
All right, Glenn, you want to go ahead and address?
We had a question that came up a few minutes ago from Jackie, I believe.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Glenn, why don't you address that? If the person have more than one will and they find out later, they found out the deceased were common law. They were living together, but found out it was common law. I think we talked about this before, but I don't think
will hold up in court.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more that I need to know than that. Common law marriage is no longer recognized in Georgia, and I forget the year, like 1995 or something.
95 or 96.
Yeah, anything prior to that, it also gets tricky. And I think common law is a myth-riddled term as well. People think living together equals common law, and that's not the legal definition. And we've had people come in who were actually married to somebody else and were claiming that they were common law married to the person they'd actually been living with for 30 years. So there's a whole lot of myth around common law marriage. And it doesn't necessarily impact upon the will. That's a more complicated question than that may I could spend an hour on that one.
I have a question. I have a question. When the cost to probate, what are some of the costs to probate, like a will or getting a marriage license? What's the cost for that? Getting a carry permit? Give us some cost out there. What's the cost to citizens for that?
$66 for a marriage. Oh, I'm going to forget all of this because I don't work at the front desk and I haven't got it in front of me. But let me say this. Both a marriage license and a weapons carry are under $100. Okay. And there are levels. So if you go get education with a minister or any kind of premarital counseling, rabbi, minister, and you have documentation recognized by the court, it can be as low as $30 to get a marriage license. But I believe it's $66, but don't hold me. It's on our website.
Okay.
For probate, it's basically $180 plus $2 a page. So I always guesstimate $200 for the petition. And then we start adding on things. So if we have to serve somebody by certified mail, it's $15 a person. If we have to serve them by first class mail, it's $5 a person. If we have to appoint a guardian ad litem, it's $150. And then there are expenses in some probate. You're going to have to run an ad in the paper, and those are expenses you don't pay to the court, but you pay to the newspaper, and that can be up to $125.
And then the costs add up also, because if you have a legal counsel helping you, then you're paying them. If you have a personal representative that's appointed and they have to do, different things to administer the estate, because that's one of the big things I think Wendy was talking about earlier. A lot of people think, well, you get appointed and then it's all done. That's not the end of the probate. That's just the beginning of the probate. Right. And so you still have to administer the estate and liquidate property and distribute everything and then, submit the accounting. And we had a situation where there was somebody who passed away, didn't have any children. He left everything for his nieces and nephews. There were 13 of them. And they were spread across the country, right? And so he had an estate where they had a large property, and he raised goats. There was a whole bunch of goats that needed to be sold and gathered, all kinds of, they had a whole bunch of antiques to sell. And so there's a lot of work that went into that. Well, the personal representative fees add up because it's based on how much time and effort they spend on administering the estate. And then the attorney fees add up. And, next thing you know, the family's looking at the bill and they say, well, there's only this much to distribute among everybody. That's because there was a lot of fees that ultimately had to come out first. So that's one of the things to remember as well. You know what I'm curious about, Wendy, maybe you could share with us, what is the quickest, most easy probate process that you've seen, where maybe it's a plural will or maybe it's just a very clear situation? How fast can somebody get appointed and get something resolved in Georgia?
The fastest way through probate is with a will done properly, with everybody agreeing, everybody signing off and acknowledging. It really is by far the fastest. There are a couple of unique animals, we call them animal petitions in probate in Georgia. One of them is a no administration necessary, but that's only available if somebody dies intestate and everybody's 100% consenting, and that can be quick, but there are advantages and disadvantages to different types of petitions that would need to be considered. And if I have a audience that I get to speak to, I do want to talk about heirs property. It is a term that is so mythologized, and we see the agony of those caught in heirs property. It is, I understand, the anchor of a family. It's their heritage. It's the reflection of the success of their ancestors, that there was a property acquired and brought into the family. But so often little is thought about into the future when the 4 kids that might get along have 4 kids each, and now we have 16 people with equal entitlement to a property and no defined obligation to pay for anything. So you have a property that everybody can squat in and nobody has to pay for. And it is really, really difficult because nobody has authority. The other myth is that if you were appointed the administrator, you are a lifetime appointee with authority over a home when you should have earned your way out of the job by actually moving the property into everybody's name. And that's when your authority ends. So heirs property is such a blessing and a curse all at one time.
Well, Wendy, let me ask you a quick question, because you are a busy lady. We've been trying to get you for around 20 years now. And, no.
When I was born.
I know there's no way we could discuss everything in one sitting. We like to predate when you'll be able to come back and be with us, especially to help us educate people about this. This is a hot topic. It's a very important topic because there's too many people whose houses are being lost due to ignorance, not knowing what to do. Our objective here at Financial Sense is to not only help people understand how insurance works, but we bring experts on like yourself and attorney Wagstaff to help explain other areas such as probate, such as wills, such as trust, or administration. You mentioned a couple of things, attesting, the common individual, to them, that's Martian language. So we need to find a time when we can get you back so that these little areas, and no, this is not college. We're not going to be here for 7 months training this, but maybe a second show when it's conducive for your schedule. We love to have you come back. We have approximately 3.5 minutes left, or 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So we're no way are we going to
get your website. Can you see the website of the probate court real quick, please? The website.
Well, chathamcourts.org. Chathamcourts, plural.org. We'll get you there, and then you look for the probate menu page, and you'll see a lot of information, including standard forms that can be used for the and there's a booklet there, what to do when a loved one dies, which is helpful to understand what the different options are. It's put together by the state. So,
and it's chathamcourts.org.
Chathamcourts.org.
We want to give you that option to educate the community, Wendy. So we definitely will get back with you and schedule a date and time and have you back on, because it is definitely important in our community. So at this time, we really need to say bye. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. This is
Tanya.
Financial Sense. Yes, sir.
Tanya, we got 1 minute and 10 seconds. We're not going to rush everybody off. Any last comments before we wrap this up, Attorney Wagstaff?
So I really appreciate hearing from Wendy on today, and one of the things to keep in mind is that there's people there to help, and there's people there at the court that can provide you with answers. There's some self-help guides, no matter what state or county you're in. You can always reach out, and because you've come through Financial Sense or this referral source, right, we can provide you with free consultations and give you some idea of what your needs might be. But just remember that you don't have to go at it alone, and you should find the right answers, because sometimes when you try to fix things without knowing the right answers, you make it worse, and then it can get more complicated or more costly or more expensive. And so it's important to make sure that you get the right help.
Wow.
All right. You can close it out for us. You got 10 seconds. Let them know who we are, where we come from. 5 seconds.
5 seconds. All right, great. Hey, listen, we are Financial Sense, and you're watching us here on All Things Relevant Media. And we like for you to like us on Facebook. The like button. Hit that like button like 100 times, and contact your friends, have them watch it over again and again. And we'd like for you to join us next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about what? Taxes?
Next week's guest we have, no, taxes not next week. Next week
Medicare. Okay.
Medicare.
Thank you so much.
That's right. Hey guys, we want to thank you for being with us. Our time is up.
Thanks
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Wendy Williamson, thank you so much.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.